Welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast, coming to you live from Cole Creative in downtown Wilkes-Barre. I am John Popko. I work for Time Shamrock Communications in radio for Rock 107, Alt 92.1, and ESPN Radio. And I have a show on Saturday nights at 9 o'clock called Alt Natives, where I play the area's best local music. So if you're a band from the area, send us your stuff. Altnatives at alt921.com.
My name is Brittany Boot, and I'm the owner of Boot Photography Studio.
And we are here tonight with the one, the only, John Phillips. He will always be known to me as Guido.
Of course, you had to.
That's how I met him. That's how I will always know you.
Thank you for that.
I remember asking, is Guido and John Phillips the same person?
Yeah.
It was a John Guido Phillips.
John Guido Phillips.
Way back.
So when did that change?
Well, I don't think it's ever really changed. I think it's just been kind of subsided a little bit. But
Yeah.
now that we've put it out there, I'm sure it can blossom and rise
Bring it
again
back.
at some point. Yes.
Bring it back. But if you have any questions for us tonight, feel free to leave them in the comments below. But as always, we have some beer to drink. So I hope you are ready to travel back in time to the year 2006.
I remember that year
circa
well.
my birthday.
I don't think you remember that year well.
I don't.
So you graduated high school.
There is. All right. Okay. You know what, Brittany, we're talking.
You're not that much older than me.
The adults are talking. But yeah, you know what's funny about that night? What I do remember from that night is you telling me, "Oh, I have a large bottle of Jaeger for you that you never brought. You said you get it to me, and you never did. That's fine. That's
Really?
okay. That's okay. That's all
Are you
right.
sure
But
about
I have beer. Wait, what?
So, let's talk about this evening.
That was with authority.
So, congratulations. You have earned a trip in a taxi cab.
Oh, jeez. You know, I almost wish that you did not bring this.
So you would say 2006, right? So let's see if all your years can keep up to you tonight.
Oh my God.
We'll start with.
Well, thank you for honoring the birthday.
You're
gift,
welcome.
But,
I'm here for you, John.
I haven't had Jaeger in probably 5 or 6 years.
I'm sure Amanda is watching right now, going, no.
We should have a shot.
We in your honor, I will do one with you.
Okay. Well, first we have some beer to drink from our sponsors at Beer Boys. They have 72 beers on tap. They are located on North Washington Street in Wilkes-Barre. It's about a block from here. But they're kind enough to supply us with beer every week. And this week they have beer from Free Will. It's a mango wheat. I should have been more prepared. Mispillion River Pineapple Express. That sounds awesome. And Fegley's Brew Works Framboise.
What do you want to do first?
I don't know. What would you like to do first? You have to drink. So.
The Framboise seems like it's going to be a little intense.
It's only 6.5.
I don't know. I'd say the Framboise.
All
Wanna
right,
start with that?
we'll be fancy pants. Framboise.
What if we mix the Jaeger and the Framboise?
I mean, we can try that.
Would that be ridiculous?
We can definitely do that. Gerard, are you yeah? All right, that's enough. All right. Would you do the honors?
I will.
I will take care of our other sponsors. We're professional and legit here. John.
Really?
Yeah, we don't mess around.
Ooh, it smells
You
good.
have always been professional and legit, though.
Yeah. Well, this Framboise is a traditional style
really
Belgian
good.
lambic, and it's after fermenting, the beer was transferred into French oak barrels with fresh raspberries and
Maybe
aged
just
for
talk
2
about the
years.
French.
It's a 5.5. I apologize. I think it's a 6.5. Whatever. But we also want to give a shout out to our other sponsor, the Keys in downtown Scranton. This Thursday is the Scranton Fringe Festival Music Showcase with E57 and Katie Kelly and the Charming Beards. Friday is Almost Famous, an Electric City Boogie, a dance party where you can dress up as your favorite celebrity or character from any show.
Who would you dress up as?
Jason Statham
Oh.
or Joe Rogan.
I don't feel like you don't need to dress up that much.
Well, I'd have to lose a lot of weight, cut, get ripped, shave my head and my beard. That would suck.
No one will approve of that at all.
No, especially my wife. But at the Keys Saturday is a metal show with Terrorize This, Rise My Flag, or Rise My King, I'm sorry, and Earthmouth.
Earthmouth rocks.
I think I had them coming up on my show this week.
Yeah, they're awesome.
The FM Kirby Center is also a sponsor, and they have Matthew West on September 30th, Fozzy on October 4th.
Nice.
Yeah. How about that?
band.
Yeah. Linda Eater on October 6th, and Halloween movie screenings on October 13th. Oh, and the recently announced Evil Dead, the musical, on October 30th.
Which sounds crazy.
They have a splatter zone.
Yeah. That's going to be wild.
Yeah, so. And finally, last but not least, is the Loyalty Barbershop and Shave Parlor, which just opened up a new shop in downtown Wilkes-Barre, right down the street on South Main Street. Brand new location, but don't forget there are spots in Archbald and Scranton as well. So good luck to you guys, and I think it's time to drink.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.
It smells boozy,
Cheers.
but
It does smell boozy. It's a lot of flavor.
That's
It's
something.
good.
Where'd that come from? It's almost like a close to those sour beers last week, but obviously not a sour, but whatever, it's good.
You've always been a beer connoisseur.
I wouldn't say that. I've just been a lush.
No, you've been a professional. There's a big difference.
My parents always said to be good at something. I chose to drink beer well.
Be the best.
So,
Aaron Brooke used to say it the best. If all else fails, lower your standards.
yeah, I mean, that's the truth. So, we're here with John Guido Phillips. He is the owner and designer of MCR Design Group, or MCR
Design Group
whatever,
Productions.
Production. He's the director of production for Heavy Grass, which I have no idea what that is, so you're going to have to explain it to me
I sure
at
will.
some point. And you're also a freelance, I can't talk tonight, a freelance, this is why Rich should be here, a freelance tour manager. Previously did some work with Breaking Benjamin, and we'll get into that tonight as well.
Sure.
So I think that's all the business stuff out of the way. So let's have a discussion here, John.
I'm all words.
So you and I go way back.
We do.
What, probably 2005 or so. And I knew you in the just the music business, playing around with UUU, party band, all
Many
that kind of
years.
stuff. So, and also a band called solo stuff as well. Let's just give us a little background on yourself. You know, from starting then till now, or
Sure. So I was pretty much a musician from the age of 19 till I want to say about 34. I spent most of my time with playing or performing with UUU till 2014, 15, around there is when I had officially left. I'm still very involved with the band. I actually still book the band for gigs, for mostly like corporates and weddings and things of that nature, and we're all like really good friends still. OurAfter was together for, I want to say, probably 8 or 9 years. Had a lot of different member changes. We did a lot of fun gigs, like up in, pretty much from New York to Pennsylvania. I remember the one in New York where we almost killed a guy. That was kind of fun. You remember that?
is that with OurAfter?
Yeah.
Was I on that trip?
Yes, you were. That was that one bus when the guy like almost died and they had to take him to the hospital.
I feel like maybe I was drunk. I don't know.
No, you definitely were.
I don't recall that moment specifically, but I'm not surprised.
I was a booker and an agent for a lot of bands and like DJs and things of that nature, and still am to this day. I love the music industry, whether it's local, regional, national, no matter what it is. I mean, you just have to find your niche for the things that you like and the people that you love to work with, and then a cause that you also like to believe in or behind. And I think that's a really important part to a scene too, especially a local one, because it normally begins with one individual, and then it branches out to all the other people that they have a general influence on, be it other agents, bookers, nightclubs, press, radio. That's kind of more or less how a scene develops, in my opinion. It's how a community comes alive. It's how the Seattle scene exploded. It's how Nashville became what it is. It's how New York City became what it is. Pennsylvania has its niche pockets too for like the stuff that it does. It's a really culture is sometimes a little hard to come by, especially with music these days, because I think a lot of the times I kind of feel like an old man saying this, but I feel that like the new generation that's out doesn't have as much forthright as some of the previous ones had. It's a whole new ballgame now. We're in a whole new time where the entertainment aspect used to be the bars and nightclubs and people go out and see a band. And now it's looking at one on your phone.
Yeah.
And seeing who's streaming and who's doing this. And a lot of the times people blame a scene if a scene collapses to they attribute it to it's the bar owners, or it's the radio, or it's the press, or it's this, or it's that, or it's technology. And I have a different outlook when it comes to that stuff. And I feel that like if a scene isn't doing well, I actually think that it reverts all the way back to education. And education is really where everything begins at the end of the day, because it's sometimes you've seen a lot of the things as far as governments ripping the arts out of schools, and they don't put as much stock into the fact of really showing how a creativity can bleed into something new and exciting. When it comes to like music, I've fought for it for years for whatever purpose it was that I believe in, just whether it was community or because I believed in an artist or because I wanted to work for one. The one thing I'll say about the educational aspect is, and this goes for mentoring even with musicians, which they should be doing more than anything, is that rather than the young people that are coming out of the ranks and that want to learn about it, and rather than trying to think of that as your competition, you have to look at them more as your mentors, and you have to guide people along a path, like as far as like whether or not you have to teach them to learn an instrument, how they can be the best vocalist, how they can be the best guitar player, how they can be the best DJ, honestly. The one thing I always admired is ambition, and even people that had too much ambition and not enough skill or education, because it just meant that they had a thirst to learn for what they wanted to do, how they wanted to skill their craft. And that's always the guys that you watch out for at the end of the day too, because they're the ones that have become king.
I think it's fair to say that you are a staple in NEPA with the ambition, so to speak, with the bands you've been a part of, and you've done the benefits, and you've done going back to education. You were kind of like the original founder of the Steamtown Music Showcase, which you started in 2009.
I want to say it was before that. I think it was 2005, 2006.
Oh, okay.
And it's when Tinks was still around.
Right.
And John Heil was the owner, who I love. Still to this day, I actually thought John Heil was probably one of the coolest bar owners that I worked with, and he was actually kind of a mentor business-wise, because the one thing I always respected about him is whenever he said that he was going to do something, he always did it, whether or not he took his hits or his losses or his gains at the end of the day. And I think that was kind of the more important thing in the scene. He was tough to work with, but he was forthright. But I remember it started because, the scene of NEPA had originally exploded when Breaking Benjamin had come onto the map. There was more behind it, though. I mean, you had, obviously, like Nick Coyle had Lifer, which was Strangers with Candy back then, and there was a whole, MTV kind of gave them a platform to work with. Obviously Aaron Fink and Mark Lepaski were in that band, and Chris Lightcap. Mm-hmm. And Chris Lightcap is actually now the monitor engineer for Shinedown.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he's still involved with the scene, just in a completely different aspect now. But that whole platform kind of put a little bit of a notice on this area. And so, beforehand, you even had Fuel and Live that were coming out of PA, and you started to watch this surge of talent coming out of here. And it was an interesting time in those early 2000s, because even there's other musicians from this area that have gone on and done cool things on a national circuit, like even, Marco Marcinko when he was out drumming for Maynard Ferguson. Eli Halibzek, who is, used to be in OurAfter, but he's been out in LA and he's drummed with Dishwalla and other cool acts and things of that nature. Yeah.
Dishwalla's still around?
That they are still around to my knowledge.
That's awesome.
But once that little circle came on here, you kind of watched the national attention focus to Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, which is just known for a couple of things in the national eyes. You see the things of Scranton, Wilkes-Barre is a great place to live, and then you see the advertisements that Scranton is a negative place to live, and then you see the advertisements or the news stories that it's, bankrupt city or, wonderful place to raise a family. And I don't buy into any of that media crap. At the end of the day, I think your hometown is what you make of it at the end of the day. And if you're going to be a negative Nance about it, then leave. If you want to make a difference, then make a difference and take your lickings while you're going to do it too. I think great success is normally, people look at success sometimes by money that you make or how you, how much, many jobs you create. I think success is determined by the fact of just how determined you are to keep going and creating even in the face of adversity, and basically saying he can't do it, and then you wind up doing something 10 times greater. That's real success. But this area was just an awesome cultural manifestation. Look at the great things that AJ Jump even does. And one thing I love about AJ too is that he's one of those guys that will never stop. He always believes in something great, and way back when, even when we were younger, AJ and I used to butt heads a little bit, and then we had this coming to Jesus moment, and we realized that, in the end, we really just wanted same things for our community, sure. Just really different ways, and we've been really good friends ever since then, and I admire him for his talent too. But when you look at even 2006, after Ben and all of them were on the road, there was a surge in bands that just really wanted to put something cool together, and you had bands like the Black Orchid and Owen's Grudge and OurAfter and Nowhere Slow. Then there was Panacea, Spit Can,
yeah.
Who was also Syphilis at that time. But there was this awesome rock vibe that was going on, and it wasn't just rock; it was pop too. There was so many cool different facets of music. So I started an event where I just took it out for one day. I did it during La Festa on the Sunday at Tinks, and the first day we did it, we had 900 people show up to the venue. It was mobbed to the gills. And Brian Banks was also involved with it, and I'd like to say that we did it together, and we kind of more or less just took a look at it and said, this is something that's really cool. We should try to expand upon this a little bit more. So the next year we wound up growing it into 3 venues, and we did Whistles, which is no longer there, which is now Ale Mary's.
R.I.P.
Tinks Again, which is now Levels, and Molly Brannigan's, which is now a parking garage or an empty room.
Empty room, yeah.
And we did it the next year, and then we had 1,700 people in that day. But we kept it to one day. It was always just one day that we focused on. We always wanted to kind of just more or less get it into that realm of keeping it as that kind of event. We did it again the next year, and that's when we started doing clinics. And we started bringing in a lot of the people that you see for the Electric City conference that goes on with Joe Calvison and Kenny, which we'll get to that in a minute too.
Oh boy.
No, good stuff. So
yeah.
It's this whole scene started to develop again, and then year 4 happened, and it was complete disaster. And it's when the market pretty much crashed. And the whole and Tinks shut down in Scranton. We tried doing this as a 2-day event, and it was almost like you can't have a house without a basement at the end of the day. So we tried to build the house a little bit too big, and it was okay, but we scaled it back. And then we started doing more venues, and we got the Bog involved, and the Backyard Ale House came later, and then the Keys was later. The Vintage Theater, which is no longer around, was involved, which, the one year, some of it, we actually booked bands that have turned into major nationals, like the Menzingers was involved at the showcase. Motionless in White was a band that played the showcase. And I'm really happy at the fact that I actually got those bands at one point just to see them as, as babies. and now they're just monsters, and they are like major influence in the entire, not just U.S., but in the world. But, you know, it went on for about 7 years, and I decided after 7 years, I'm like, I wanted to stop, because I couldn't put my heart into it anymore. Not because I was sick and tired of it. It was just, I think it was time for me to just do something else. You know, Caviston and Kenny later came along, and they started to do the music awards, and they did the Electric City Conference. You know, Joe had called me at one point and asked about doing it, and I said, yeah. I said, you know, just run with it. And it was like the model was still there and everything, but Caviston and Kenny put their own twist and spin on it. And it's great because they've developed something back into the scene that was needed for what it is. And they still have really cool, they've brought a community together, like especially with the award show that they do, which was a really tough thing to do. Anybody that knows anything in this life is that musicians' egos can be fragile sometimes. I'm a musician. My ego is fragile. You know, I freely admit it. But the one thing is that, you know, it was very hard at one point to get a camaraderie, and that's when you can't have a camaraderie between musicians, it's when things sometimes seem to falter. But now there's been like this real great aspect of acceptance, and also it's just a really cool awards aspect to look forward to, you know. And there's a lot of great musicians that are still playing that like I really admire from around this area too. I mean, look at Zach Kelch, is a great drummer. I absolutely love Zach. John Kanjar is such a wonderful guitar player. You know, I got to give credit to one guy who's come up out of the ranks, and I think he's done a lot of good stuff, is Will Perna. I think he's done a really good job for his band, and you know, I watch all that stuff, and, you know, just because I'm not involved with it doesn't mean that I don't keep a close eye on it, you know. And I was very blessed and fortunate over the last 3 years to work with Ben, with his band, and obviously Aaron Brook is one of my best friends to this day. And all those band members I consider, you know, pretty much really good friends too, along with the crew that works with them. And it's nice to see that, you know, such a major success comes out of this area. I don't think you could ask for anything more at the end of the day.
No, but in typical NEPA fashion, there's still people from here that
There's
hate
always
Breaking
going to
Bad.
be that. Yeah.
I mean, I think you're going to have that with anything, though, at the end of the day. The one thing is, if you're going to go into whether it's a business model or a practice or a band or a brand or whatever it is, at the end of the day, you're not going to please everybody. No. I mean, it's like, not that I mean to bring it up, but it's like Trump and Obama. You know, you're either gonna hate them or you're gonna love them, and it's just either one.
Art is just so subjective for everybody. It's not like you're going to create some music. You're not going to expect everyone to be absolutely in love with it. And you just take roll with the punches, you know? Success is success in that regard, where you're just going to work hard, do your best at what you're doing. And as you go up that ladder and influence more people and have a bigger audience, not everyone's going to be totally obsessed with every little thing that you do. You know, that just comes with the territory, I think.
I agree. Listen, music is a buffet. It's just, what are you going to sample and what are you going to like at the end of the day? And that's the great thing about it, is that, you know, the buffet is huge. You know, NEPA has this stigma to it sometimes, with, like, obviously with Breaking Ben, because, you know, there's been member changes too. And all of the former members are the most unbelievable musicians, and they're monsters at what they do. Aaron Fink is fantastic, so is Klepaski, Saliga, Jeremy Hummel. I mean, Kevin Safara was technically, you know, playing with them for a little bit as well. And, you know, now you have a group, that's the same thing. But, you know, a band it's their team. You know, it's their team that they work with and they put together. And listen, both aspects of Breaking Benjamin have had a massive amount of success. Massive. You know, be it from the one entity that it was, you know, from leading up all the way to Dear Agony to the one that it is now in Dark Before Dawn. And they're going to release a new album, and it's going to be huge. I guarantee it, because the fan base is there. The loyalty to the band is there at the end of the day. And quite honestly, the hooks and songwriting have always been there. From day great. One to now.
And I think they probably even got bigger, you know, even with the band change and the lineup change, like in 2016 when they finally went, you know, out of the U.S. and Canada, when they went to
Europe and everywhere.
Ferry, yeah.
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 Oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing about it is, again, this is the one thing that I attribute to Breaking Benjamin. Members aside, and this is it's nothing else. There's a story, and that's the one thing that's missing from a band, from that like now. That there's a rarity of anymore. There's a great story behind it. There's a whole excitement. You know, it's almost like the legend story. You know, Led Zeppelin was legendary back in the day, in the 70s. You know, in like 80s it was Guns N' Roses. 90s it was Nirvana. Now, I'm not saying the modern is Breaking Benjamin, but I'm saying that they're a big band and they have a huge story behind them. Bands had a mystery a long time ago, and that was part of the excitement of entertainment. Not only a mystery, but a danger. You know, Guns N' Roses was a massive band because they were dangerous, not just because they were great at what they do. We all knew Axl Rose ran around on the stage with his underwear and nothing else at the end of the day, much like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And you never knew like what was going to happen. Like Jim Morrison was massive back with the Doors in the 70s because you never knew if he would just whip it out and piss on somebody out. Like, it's true though. And that was the element of danger that these bands were known for. Breaking Benjamin at one point was a dangerous band. And it was because you never knew what was going to happen next. But that danger has transformed, and it's come around into a new plateau, you know, and it's a band that is in it to win it. And I applaud that. You know, I think you've seen, like, even from like the last album they had, it was a huge success, and nobody really knew like how that was going to react with new members, or how it was going to react with him finally going to Europe, or, you know, the whole transformation. Like, you know, we're hoping this doesn't happen like it happened in the past. You know, Ben did a big, huge transformation. What went on with him and his bandmates really at the end of the day should be their own business, and it should just stay there.
Just like in any relationship.
Exactly. Like between like the old breakups, if you're going to keep bringing up the breakup, it's going to just keep being a manifestation of itself at the end of the day. What really matters is what kind of music are you putting out?
Right.
And is it good, and am I going to like it? Not everybody's going to like it, but I get it. But there's going to be a lot of people that do. And I think it's like I said, like that's with any band, you know, and, you know, there's been tons of bands out there that have like member changes. You know, the Red Hot Chili Peppers had like different guitar players from Navarro to Frusciante, and, you know, Shinedown's gone through like different member changes. I mean, you know, Disturbed's had bass player changes. It's just a matter of how do you roll? How does the music keep going at the end of the day? And I think that's the aspect of appreciation you have to look at, and, you know, whether it's a band in a local, regional, or national scene. I feel like I've talked.
Is that
I
it?
feel like people have this idea that everything has to be so dramatic, or of course it was some kind of like blow up, or people kind of like manifest these ideas in their head and they believe them, you know, and a lot of times in reality it's just not how things are or how things were, or you don't know what goes on inside a business meeting or any kind of meeting really, or any kind of relationship or any kind of conversation, but people have a tendency to really come up with their own ideas of what they almost want to have had happened or something, you know, and that kind of gets carried away, I think, with when people want to discuss, they almost want to know something, or as if they like have some kind of insight to it, you know. So I think that comes with a lot of that.
People just like to talk sometimes,
Yeah,
just because they
people-
like to hear themselves speak.
They just like to kind of litter their opinion and want to, like I said, have some kind of insight, or it makes them feel like they know something, or, oh, well, I heard, you know what I mean? Like people just are generally and naturally like that, I guess.
Well, you know what they say about opinions at the end of the day. And again, like there's a difference between opinions and facts, you know.
Right.
Sometimes, like, and again, you know, sometimes the dirty laundry is meant to stay as it's the dirty laundry.
Right.
You know, you wouldn't want to jump in a laundry basket with, you know, laundry covered in shit at the end of the day.
Right.
You'd want to say, well, let's take it out of the dryer. It's clean now. Like, focus on that, you know. And I really think that anybody that hasn't been out to experience that band locally should, you know, go do themselves a favor, because again, it's a whole new thing. And, you know, I hope people still like follow up on even, you know, Klepaski's, you know, aspects for what he's doing in music, or Aaron Finks or Chad's or any of them. Like, you know, they're all great musicians at the end of the day, and there's nothing that anybody can do to take that away from
Right.
them. Nothing.
And they're all doing their thing.
Yeah. And they all do it in their own way, in the way that they feel is best for them, which
Yeah.
is a great thing. The one thing that I was blessed with was, the experiences on the road of all the new people that I got to meet, and TMs and crews and bands and everything. And I had a couple of offers, not being with them anymore. I was asked at one point to go out with Motionless in White. I didn't feel like it was a good fit for me at the time. And I love Chris and all those guys. And I actually put them in contact with my former assistant, Brendan, who's actually a TM for Young Guns. He's done work with a couple other bands as well. But he's been like a great TM fit for them. And he just got back from Australia. He's working with them. I was actually offered a position with a country singer. That didn't necessarily work out. It wasn't. It was Dwight Yoakam, actually. Guitars and Cadillacs.
I'm not a country guy. I don't care.
Nothing.
I like some country.
Hillbilly.
But I've been offered another band also, which I'll probably.
Southern part of Wilkes-Barre.
Oh, come on, come on.
I love saying that.
But I was offered another band, which I'll be working with. I just can't release it yet at this point right now.
When will you be able to tell us?
Probably have a week or two. I'll be able to kind of like release that out.
Cool.
You have to contact Rich and let him know.
What was that?
Oh yeah, it's contact Rich and let him know.
I will.
Oh, and by the way, Rich is dead.
I'll contact him in his grave later.
Oh yeah.
No, Rich is
at the Fringe
in
Festival.
Scranton covering the Fringe festival that's happening now through Sunday.
Now through Sunday.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a great
Just
event.
had
Is
them
that
on.
Connor's event that he does?
Yes.
His is after school special. The one I think that he has going on today.
Yeah. So Connor,
Is that today?
The preview party is live right now.
the preview party is
Okay.
live right now. You can catch it on.
NEPA
Yeah, but don't leave us. Like,
But-
stay here.
Yeah, stick around.
Because we
Let's
have more
drink.
beer to drink.
Yeah, let's do
you
that.
guys are. Fuck.
I don't like
Here we
the
go,
sour
here we
beers. I'm
go.
so sorry. I 72 beers on tap, but I just don't like the sour
I
ones.
don't really drink beer all that often, so
So-
I'm taking my time and enjoying it and savoring it.
Well, I'll
I'm
be
gonna
the
have
champion.
this is a mango wheat, free will mango wheat.
I'll be the champion.
You're always a champion.
That's what my mom tells me.
Yes, you are.
Well, Brittany is doing a fantastic job pouring one of the 72 beers on tap at Beer Boys. Is heavy grass.
Mm-hmm.
What? I've never heard of this before. I had no idea you were involved with this.
It's very much on the DL. Not anymore, though.
So what's
Yeah,
the
I mean, there's a million people watching, so you're out of the
at 1 million exactly. We just checked.
So I've been, I met these agents and festival owners the last couple of years that were involved with a company out in California. And they hired me to kind of like more or less spearhead some production stuff for them. So Heavy Grass is a cannabis company. So it's a company out of California.
Yeah, let's. My interest is very high right now, and no pun intended.
So it's a cannabis brand, actually.
Okay.
So it's not something that you would actually look at like, there's laws when it comes to cannabis, and I learned a lot of stuff about it, which is crazy. But as a brand, you can't actually like touch your product. Like if you can't sell things and like on your own when you have your brand. So think of it like Marlboro. Marlboro manufactures it. They have somebody they get their tobacco from somebody. They put their brand on it in the end of the day, and then they sell it to a store, and they basically
Distribute it.
market their brand.
There's no Marlboro stores.
Correct. So it's kind of like the same thing with a dispensary. A dispensary is licensed to sell cannabis.
Right.
So you have to have, you technically have to have a dispensary sell your brand at the end of the day. So what I was in charge of was just, I went out to a couple festivals and got the brand awareness out there to basically make people aware of it. So they had like what's called an activation at the end of the day. So an activation is just like a tent, or something you'd see at a festival, much like Monster or Camel or any of that. So they launched their activation, and of course, like everybody's like, "What is this?" As soon as you put a cannabis leaf on something, everybody's just like, "What's going on here?"
It's a cool name too.
So they basically the platform was used through rock festivals to kind of gain data to see like who's interested, what is their focus. California is mostly their focus because California becomes a recreational state in January. So on the 1st of January, You can go anywhere in California and you can smoke marijuana.
Just like you're smoking a cigarette.
Yep.
There'll be some regulation, I guess, right?
Well, the regulation would be obviously you have to buy it out of a dispensary.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a medical card. So it's just like Colorado.
But if you want to walk outside the bar and light up a joint, you would have no problem doing that, is essentially the idea.
Edibles, vapes, all that kind of stuff is for sale. Now, the thing about it at the end of the day is, there's laws with all that kind of stuff. You have to figure it like you can't market to children.
Right.
You can't have a car with heavy grass with a big joint on the top of it driving down the street. Although they've been doing that kind of stuff in California because it's kind of like the Wild West because the state hasn't imposed laws on them yet. So it's still coming to fruition. So anything that you do, you can kind of just more or less sort of get away with.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting to watch it, because a lot of people on the East Coast, it's still like very taboo. It's
Yeah.
like, the big bad cannabis and everything like that. And me personally, it's like, I don't care what people do at the end of the day, as long as it doesn't hurt me or my family or anybody else. And I think alcohol is something that is 10 times more dangerous than
Absolutely.
cannabis at the end of the day. Cannabis has never killed anybody. The only time that anybody's died from it is if you're choking on a freaking Oreo if you smoked it afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's got he laughed. It's got its medicinal purposes. And if anybody actually knows their history or has studied it, because I'm a big buff on history, the only reason why cannabis is illegal is because the federal government decided that they wanted to target blacks and minorities in the Louisiana circuit down in the jazz circuit, and that was their way to go after them because that's when they came up with their reefers commercials and stuff like that in the 40s. And again, nobody wants to be doing cocaine. Nobody wants to be doing heroin. Nobody wants to be doing LSD. That's all bad. We all know it's bad.
Right.
But the craziness for this kind of thing as far as the actual plant itself is a little ludicrous, in my opinion. Even Alabama voted on it, and it was a 60-40 split. It's still illegal, but it was 60-40 to legalize it, which is nuts. So everybody kind of knows that.
Everyone seems to be coming along. The whole country seems to be coming along, but not necessarily at the same pace.
I've been to just about every single state in the U.S. Alaska and Hawaii are the only two I didn't get to. And it's all the same everywhere. It's all the same. Everybody has the same mentality at the end of the day. Or maybe I was just around a lot of people in the rock shows or anything that think that way. But again, it's the only time that marijuana is dangerous is when somebody laces it. I would rather see, if that product was going to be legal, I'd rather it be government regulated.
Right.
And
It's safe.
and it's seed to sale, and you're basically not getting the product from Jose, who's had it stuck up his ass for the last 3 weeks to get it
Right.
across the border. And that's just truth. Or some guy who was trying to lace it with LSD, or and right out of the gate, that could be solving your crime problems. It could be bringing in tax revenue for your state. And they're making a killing on it in all these states. Colorado, Washington, Oregon. And I don't want to hear the fact that everybody's having all these problems and this and that with, crime. Because they're not. It's a lie. It's an absolute lie. I've been there. I've seen it. It's a lie. The one thing that they're probably having an issue with is the economy. Not a bad way, but because there's so much money coming in, it's becoming more expensive to live in.
Yeah, what do we do with all this money?
Well, that's, and again, not a bad problem to have.
Not at all.
But you have to understand that with more revenue stream, things become more expensive at the end of the day. So it's a fact of you have to find out what the balance and shift is. So I learned a lot about it. I learned a lot about it from people that smoke marijuana too, which was kind of because they have a lot of knowledge about that kind of thing. It's an interesting business. There's a lot of big businessmen out there that are definitely very intrigued by it too. And it's like I said, it's if you know what you're doing with it and you know what you can monopolize with it, you can probably make a very good living off of it.
Yeah.
You don't have to smoke it in order to make a living off of it.
I want to make a living off it and smoke it. I don't, because I get random drug tests at work, so I can't. But
So you're not smoking that stuff.
no, I can't.
I know.
I find no problems with it though.
I don't either.
I don't care if you do or don't, whatever. But
I think.
tax money. I want the tax money. I'm sick of the state being broke.
Well, the state's problem is that it's, I'm very blessed and fortunate where I've been able to sit on the board of directors for the Chamber of Scranton, which is a fantastic board to be with some of the best businessmen in the area. Even the Heart Association and things of that nature. But the one thing about it is that, like, when it comes to the state and it comes to the tax aspect, Pennsylvania is actually one of the worst states in the country when it comes to businesses as far as its taxing. Because the problem with it is that the industry is just faltered here in PA. It's a Rust Belt state for a reason. It was the anthracite state, so now we don't have anthracite. So, and I think it's ridiculous that people would want to go back to it, considering of just how much of a decimator it is to the environment. There are plenty of other ways to harness energy. Just sink your money into it, and 10 years later, you'll figure it out and develop big business. Like, other countries have figured it out. Austria's figured it out. Switzerland's figured it out. Sweden's figured it out. We don't need to be like China at the end of the day and still trying to, like, go back to the Mesozoic area to figure out how we're going to get our lamps to work at the end of the day with the burning oil and coal and shit. There's so many other ways. But the problem is that they're trying to get blood from a stone. So rather than trying to put some relief on the tax aspect and hoping that the economy cycles itself back, they try to overtax the population, which is nuts. Like, Scranton has a mercantile tax. You have to drive to Scranton and pay money to work there. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
I do it.
I think that's insane. Mm-hmm. The hotel tax goes to, pay for different aspects in the county. All of the heavy taxes that are on Scranton, like, Scranton is very much in distress as far as its financial aspects sometimes. But it's also done by pensions and everything and bad business dealings from years ago, and that you can't punish businesses in order to get that money back. You have to make it more enticing for businesses to put money back into the revenue stream for the city. Look at Dixon City as a prime example. Taxes are significantly low in there. Look at all the businesses and all the sellers and everything that are up there. It's the same thing with Wilkes-Barre that goes on down here. Like, you have to make sure that, like, you don't deter your moneymakers away. You have to bring them in and welcome them. Give them some incentive. Like, after 3 years, you're going to do some things for them off the grid. And, no specific taxes, but, like, hey, after 3 years, if you become a success, we need a little bit more to better our city. And that, there's a great author by the name of Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he had a really cool saying inside of that book, is that people that achieve great wealth have an obligation to return that wealth to society. And I think that's actually a huge standing point. Mm-hmm. I think that should always be done.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the more people that set that kind of example in a community, the more prevalent it would be. But you don't see, like, the businesses up by the mall necessarily directing any kind of energy back into the community. But you do see the local businesses doing that. So if the corporations had more of a standpoint when they come in and build their restaurants and their businesses in the area, but you don't see them, other than, offering their service and creating the jobs that they create, kind of giving back into the community in that sense.
Right.
As much as you see the local businesses.
Well, there's a lot of corporate that, like, rests upon those areas up there, and it's just a different kind of business model. Local business is really where the economies always begin and end. Whether it's, Loyalty Barbershop, or like the Bach, or a place like Sakari over in the 900 building, or a local business like the Woodlands, or any, like, all that money and infrastructure that comes around. It all cycles and stays there. It's when you start sending it out to the major corporations that it starts to become a problem at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan of bigger business, but I'm not a big fan of hampering creativity with employees. I don't like that. A lot of the times, if I want something done with the team that I have with the company, I'll say, listen, I want this done. I can get a little intense sometimes, I admit it. But the one thing I always want them to do is kind of to figure it out on their own too. I'm not a big fan of hand-holding people. I'm a bigger fan of making people stand on their own 2 feet. Mm-hmm. I think people need guidance, but I think that, like, really, like, when you make somebody stronger by making them more self-sufficient, I think that's the best thing possible.
Right.
That's always one thing that I admire about, like, people and their overall tenacity with things, is that sink or swim mentality. You could either be a swimmer or you're going to be drowned in life. And if you, in I think this is a big thing with the younger generation, if anybody is watching, is that nobody owes anybody anything at the end of the day. From day one till the day that you're dead. I think everybody should be fighting for their own relative aspect in this world. They should be fighting for what they are going to accomplish. You know, some people are very fortunate than others that they can have everything handed to them, but I also think that takes away all the appreciation at the end of the day for what you truly have worked for and held and created at the end
I
of the
feel
day.
like that's where like true happiness comes from, feeling like you earned something. You know, some of the happiest people I know are that happy because they work hard and they feel that their happiness is earned. And I feel like that's the only real way to be completely proud of what you do and have the love for what you do is because you work hard for it. Like, I really do believe that that's where like a lot of genuine happiness comes from.
I agree. I think you know, happiness comes in a lot of forms. You know, for me, it's not like whether or not I did something that somebody would revere as successful for the day, or you know, my happiness comes from if I get to take care of my family at the end of the day. That's really, like, I work my ass off every day to make sure that my son and my significant other, that she will always have a good roof over her head, and my son will be taken care of, you know. And between her and him, it was game changer and life changer. Having a kid was a complete game changer in general.
It's when you find out what motivates you and why.
Buckle up.
Yeah, you ready?
Buckle up. So you are due on New Year's?
New Year's Eve.
Mine is due on the 30th.
Yeah, so you're having the second.
Mm-hmm.
You know if it's a boy or girl?
Nope.
No? Are you going to find out?
Oh, you guys
Nope.
are having a boy, right?
Yeah, we're having a boy.
Yeah.
No, we're going to keep it a surprise.
Did you know
See, I feel like your first one, you kind of want to know, but the second one, you can be surprised.
We didn't find out for the first one with John. It was like a total surprise. Like, Janelle really wanted to keep it that way, and you know, with the second one, we've kind of like went back and forth, and you know, like, do we want to find out, you know, how do we want to decorate, or like, do we need to
Prepare.
buy clothes, and she said, like, no, I don't want to do that, and I was like, okay, I respect that. Let's, you know, like, we'll just take it as it comes. And I think, you know, you don't get many surprises in life. You know, everything is always like, it's like a magic trick. You know, everybody's always about, like, oh, how they did the magic trick, and then you see the video on, like, how they did the magic trick, and how it's unveiled, and how this guy does this, and, like, all the illusion. It's, like, the same thing with a sonogram. It's like, oh, does it have a dick or not? Like, you know, it's like, you know, but, like, to be honest, like, you know, that's the main thing, is that, like, you know, everybody these days just wants to
They want to have everything all
take
figured
the
out.
whole mystery
Yeah.
out of it, you know. And I think and I really love Janelle for this. Like, you're just, it's keeping that little mystery in
Little
life
excitement.
of that excitement, and it's really fun, you know. And you know, and you can have one of two ways in the hospital when you're doing it, and you could be sitting there going, God, I hope it's a boy, I hope it's a boy, or you could be like, God, I hope it's a girl, I hope it's a girl, or you could be sitting there like, God, I hope it's a boy, God, I hope it's a boy, like, or I hope it's some people have different perceptions as far as, like, when it comes to having children, and at the end of the day, like, it's a very scary thing.
I'm terrified.
You don't have to be terrified, and the only thing that you should be terrified of at the end of the day is honestly the only thing you will be terrified about when you have a kid is making sure, like, you will want nothing to ever happen with your kid after.
Right.
Like don't be terrified about, like, the fact of you're gonna have a kid. Be terrified about the fact of what you could possibly miss out on if you're not there at that opportune time that you want to be there for something.
Yeah, and
that's what you should be terrified of.
And I'm terrified of all, like, am I going to be a good parent? Like, what if I fuck this up? Like, what, like...
It's one of those things I feel like, and I don't have children, but I'm speaking from just maybe my nieces and, like, seeing my brother become a parent, but just one of those things that kind of maybe just come together as it comes together, and you just kind of go with it, and you're naturally just going to be great at it, you know, if you already want to be.
I think my wife's awesome, because
She's great.
I mean, I'm not...
You should count your blessings
Oh,
every day.
I do, and I'm not, like, obviously going to, like...
I feel like we say that, like, once a podcast.
Yeah, it never gets old. It's been 9 years I've been getting this how did you do this? You must be huge, and I'm not. Like that kind of stuff.
Well, here's the thing: is that having a kid. This is the best analogy that I could give you for having a kid that I've kind of realized. So having a kid is like it's like buying a really complicated, not put together bookshelf at Walmart. And when you open the box, all they did was give you the instructions in Chinese, and then you have to figure it out as you go along.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's going to come together.
That's the best way that I could put it. And you know what?
Figure it out.
You'll figure it out. You know, and everybody has their own way of figuring it out at the end of the day. You know, my biggest fear with my son is that I won't be able to teach him certain things that I feel like I should be at times. Not because of the fact that I work too much or anything. Like, I want to be there for my son as much as possible. But, like, I don't ever want to miss out, really, on, like, the big things. And I know that, like, when he gets older and he starts going to do things for school and everything, like, and I've always been a workaholic, you know, I'm going to drop everything because I don't want him to feel like I was not there for a big moment that he has, you know, and I think that should be the same thing for adults also. And I think that's a big reason why it causes conflicts with people sometimes is they feel that, like, you know, their mentors or things weren't there for, like, their big moments. Scenes too. But trust me, I think you'll be a better father than you think you'll be at the end of the day.
I hope.
Just don't, like, give him beer to start.
No.
Give him a couple months, right?
Yeah, a couple months. Well, before we wrap things up.
What time is it?
It's a little after 8.
I don't have my phone on me this round.
You know, you might be asking yourself, why is this guy here talking about the music scene he was in, that he's kind of in now, and this cannabis company. John is the owner of MCR Productions, however you want to say it, which is an event company, wedding company, you name it. These guys can produce it. Tell us a little bit about that, because this is where our viewers can kind of get an idea.
A better perspective.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, this is where, you know, we talked about what you did in the past and how you contributed to the local scene. What are you doing now?
So MCR is it's been an event company for about 8 years now. It specializes in weddings, corporates, galas, bat mitzvahs, bar mitzvahs. I haven't really done funerals, so I'd like to avoid that one. But we've been doing all sorts of events for all over a 4 or 5 state region now for about 7-8 years. Right now we service about 300 events a year, be it from rentals to heavier production to design. We actually have 2 venues now as well, the Atrium at the Neat Center in Mayfield and the Room at 900, which is in the 900 building in Kingston. Both are incredible venues, industrial, modern aspects, you know, highly technological. You know, it's been an award-winning company. We've won, you know, best Hall of Fame from the Knot for the best of weddings that we did for 5 years. You know, best of Wedding Wire. We have incredible clients that we work with from all the way in the Poconos, you know, down to Philadelphia, and I have an amazing staff. I have an incredible staff from my great DJs, you know, from Beats to, you know, Kenton. We work with photographers that are inside of the company. They're not exclusive, but they've done incredible work with the company. You know, we've had great success with lighting design. You know, lighting is kind of like the one thing that I've really loved to be involved with because it's a big atmosphere changer. We won Best of Lighting with so many different awards. We recently got into floral design, and Brian Daubert, who's our new full-time floral designer, he's been doing everything for us for a couple of years, but he just came into the company full-time. But it kind of grew from just 8 lights in a basement to a 25,000 square foot warehouse now in Kingston, just loaded with anything you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, I was going to say, you started off, the lighting was your thing, and then it just kind of like blew up from there.
Yeah.
Like, when I say blow up, it's like, I feel like the success that you've seen, well deserved obviously, takes a little longer for some people to achieve. And yeah, I think you kind of got that, you know, kind of quickly, and that's because of the team you have, and like, I mean, the work. I mean, they just posted some pictures today. We were talking about it earlier.
Absolutely.
I mean, you really
stunning.
truly transformed the room. Like, We should have him come do this studio here.
I'll pimp this out
Designer
one night.
set.
I'll do it the next time you guys do this. Like, and if anybody's like never gone on to it, it's at MCR Design Group on Facebook. You can go to bookmcr.com. Our new website also for our venues is theroom@900.com and the atrium NEPA.com. But like the thing about MCR, it was, and I said this earlier, it was like the little engine that could. It was just a little engine that was just focusing on going uphill, and it started with just a vision, but it wasn't about the company and the success of how great we were at the end of the day. It's about the people in the community that got behind the idea of what they thought was going to be done with this business. So MCR was fortunate enough to have a lot of people that it had with a network. And I basically went out with it was just a vision that we all had. And it was basically saying we wanted to make things easy on a client. We wanted to be daring. We wanted to be different. We didn't want to be in the box as everybody else. And if there was a box that like basically was already made, we were going to break through it and make our own fucking box. And like, not to put it lightly that way or, to curse, but like we just wanted to be so much more forthright. And if it wasn't able to be done, it's because nobody else could figure out how to do it. And we were going to do it one way or the other. We've had our successes. We've had our setbacks. We've had our great accomplishments and we've had our mistakes, and the one thing about a business, and I'll say this to everybody, is you don't learn anything from your accomplishments. You learn everything from your mistakes, everything. That's how you succeed in life and succeed in business, is that you focus on your mistakes, you focus on the things that you did wrong, and you figure out how you're going to do them better. Whether it's your infrastructure, whether it's your execution, whether it's your design, whether it's your vision, whether it's your communication, any of those things.
Is there a reason you didn't use the word failure?
I don't believe in failure. I think failure is a word that you use when you quit.
It's a permanent thing. Failure is a permanent thing.
I think failure, and kind of ironic that I used to work at Baking Benjamin and the word failure comes up. I think failure is just an aspect of, I don't think failure exists. I think failure is a term for people that, like, I don't want to say gave up or anything, but like I think it's just an aspect that, like, basically I think that if something doesn't succeed, I think it's one of those things, for one door closes, another one opens. So a new success is born from something that maybe you didn't accomplish with.
The reason I asked was because I like the fact that you didn't use that word. It was mistakes. It was, it's a cool way to really look at it, and I'm sure that translates into your team and kind of helps them to do the work that they do, because it's incredible work. John and his team did my wedding. He's done some stuff for Time Shamrock for some events that we've done, but I can't say anything negative about.
It was, the one thing is that you always learn as you're going along. You figure things out, and the one thing I love to have is people on the team that, I believe in every one of them. I think every one of them that works with MCR is, they're dynamic at what they do. They the team brings something to the game that I am not able to. At the end of the day, it's never about just one guy. I think J.P. Morgan was the one that said it the best, that if he said, if I'm the smartest man in the room, I'm the dumbest man in the room. He always surrounded himself with individuals that led towards a greater cause. And I think that's the thing that's the thing of true success, is when you surround yourself with individuals that will lead you into a greater cause. And it's not just for you, it's for everybody else at the end of the day. And I would, with any of those young adults that work for me, I wouldn't give up any of them. There's some that I miss, some that I there's one that might be coming back, which I'm really excited about. But the one thing is, every day we're very blessed and we're very fortunate that everybody hires us to do those things, and that we get to constantly move forward with the company, and we consider ourselves very fortunate at the end of the day, and your wedding was fun. It was pretty, I got photos of it and everything.
Yeah. It was a good time. Everyone keeps, to this day, talks about how...
You had great photographers, too.
Yeah,
Who
absolutely.
did your photos?
Not just any day.
Steve Houston, who is also a member of OurAfter as well.
It was a great day. It rained all day, but you know.
That's good luck.
So was getting shit on by a bird. Do you want to get shit on by a bird?
I really do believe that the rainy day wedding is good luck.
No, I mean,
truly believe
it
that.
is what it is. Like, you know, I
Let's
was
just
more,
hope that there's not a sky full of birds shitting on your day.
Wait, did that really happen?
What?
You got shit on?
No,
Oh.
no. I'm just saying, like, the idiot, the asshole that says that is like.
I know, but I really, like,
That's fine. No, it's,
some of the rainy
it
day
was a
weddings
great
I've
wedding. Like,
photographed have been some of the best. To
I'm
be
just like,
honest.
I would just, you know, I'm glad my wife was able to like look past that and then be like, if she was upset with it, that would have broke my heart. But she's not like that, so she was, you know, everything was perfect. It was a great day.
Good.
Yeah, but yeah.
The quote that you said, the one that I like that's similar to that is, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room.
I agree with that 100% as well.
I always like that one. You said the one you quoted was similar.
Awesome.
How we doing?
Let's start wrapping things up a little bit. We'll get John home here. He's got a beautiful significant other, as he
Sure do.
earlier stated, and
Are we gonna drink this?
a beautiful baby boy. It was almost a year or over a year.
He's
now?
over a year now.
Mispillion River Pineapple Express IPA.
Oh, so we had what we had before that.
The mango.
Pour a little bit in there. I'll have
Mango wheat. That
We'll
was
have
good.
a little night. This will be our little nightcap.
Oh, no, the nightcap's the shot at you.
Oh yeah.
We're doing that before this is over.
I'll get more
Oof.
cups.
But
Oh, I can smell this one. It's like really
Joe
fruity.
Caviston says,
Oh,
"Yeah,
God.
Guido, my guitars, Cadillacs, hillbilly music is the only thing that keeps me hanging on."
I kind of give you a little.
Oh, God bless him.
Jenna K. Irwin says, "Freaking Oreo." Aaron Brooks tuning in. Damn jazz cabbage.
Damn jazz cabbage.
That's what he said. Is there a meaning behind that, or just,
I'll have to ask him later.
Mitch Evans asks, "When's the OurAfter reunion?"
Oh, good. So, funny enough, we were actually contemplating that and trying to do a show. It didn't really, I haven't heard a word back yet, but we'll see about that one.
Janelle says, a smiley face with hard eyes. My wife says, 2 hearts. Jennifer Steen says, "Caitlin and I say hi from Texas."
Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Caitlin. So, real funny story about that. There's a little girl that I met in Amarillo, Texas, by the name of Caitlin. And I went to, the band did a lot of shows, and Caitlin met Ben and the band and, broke down in tears in Amarillo. I don't know what it is about this little girl. But I came over and grabbed her afterwards, and I said, "Hey," and I'm like, "Do you want to come behind the light board for the show?" Because I was running lights for the band at that time, too. And I thought she was going to go crazy at that point. So I took her and her family, and I put them on the side of the stage that night. And Caitlin came behind the board with me, and she hung out with me. And then, we got to be, really, really... she was like my little buddy when I was out on the road. So I'd actually see her in, Oklahoma City and Houston. And I'd always drag her backstage and go meet the band. And the one thing that I always remember about Caitlin is that Caitlin was she's the little girl that we all want to be the mentor for. Or when I was a little boy, what would I have done if I was in that position where I went out and saw one of my favorite bands ever, and what would I do to have my dreams come true and be a part of what I thought was a much bigger picture that I could never be a part of? And I think that's the one thing that as adults, that if some people are put in those positions of higher power that they sometimes take for granted, that we should always do, is make sure you're always looking for that one person that you could be a good mentor for, or that you can give back to, or that you could do something to change somebody's not just day, but they'll remember that for the rest of their life, because that's a stepping stone. And that stepping stone leads to a hierarchy later on in their adult life. So it almost it kind of makes you always want to be that better person at the end of the day, because it when I looked at Caitlin, I kind of like I'm sorry if this sounds like a Freud or a philosophical thing, but like I looked at her and I kind of saw myself as a kid, and I thought that like getting that little girl to smile whenever I got the chance to see her should always be a top priority for me at the shows. Not just the fact of also like, you make sure your band was happy, you make sure your crew was happy, and as a TM, sometimes you have your mistakes and sometimes you have your great days also. And sometimes everything goes perfect and some days every day goes to shit. You just never know what can happen. But if you have that aspect in life and you're blessed with it, be it you're a TM or you're just a businessman or you're somebody that's a teacher for kids, like that should be such a big focus, is being a role model. Trust me, I've had my days in my 20s when I was not a role model whatsoever.
Both.
But it's true though, and many people when they get into their 20s are going to have those times where they're not a role model whatsoever. I knew what kind of a lifestyle I lived in my 20s, and I look back at that and I go, you know what, I did some really crazy shit and I'm still alive, and I don't know how that's possible. And I'm considering myself blessed and fortunate that now I'm in the positions that I am, and that I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by the people that believed in putting me into a position where they thought that I would do better for my community, be it business, be it music, be it being on a talk show like this, or a blog. Life is, all about experiences, and you should harness and take whatever ones you can at the end of the day, because life is far too short. You got one shot at this.
I think we mentioned that kind of thought process maybe about a month ago or so. Just like if you get an option or an opportunity to do something, like do it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's great sacrifice with great opportunity. And I think that, if it all depends on what kind of mentality you want to have at the end of the day. I've sacrificed a lot throughout 36 years. Some things I wish I didn't sacrifice, some things I'm, happy I did. But you also have to look at it like, it's like the Robert Frost poem, which road in the woods are you going to take at the end of the day? And each path leads to another path, and it leads to another path. It's kind of like the Matrix with choice.
Yeah, and you never know. And I don't know. It's life's
My mentality
too
that's
short.
kind of similar to that thinking is what I've learned is the more things you do, the more things you will do.
Listen, and the more things change, the more they stay the same. Both ways too.
Yeah.
You've changed a lot. You're still very much the same.
How have I changed?
Progress.
Okay.
Progress.
Well, I mean,
Let's dig real quick.
no. Let's get into this. I don't think you.
Why, do you want to lay down on the couch as if you're?
Are those for the Jaeger shots?
Yeah.
Perfect.
The more things change, the more they stay the same, John.
Adam Cohen says, ask John how he can keep perfect hair from an early morning load-in until way after the trucks are loaded. There must be a secret that we aren't aware of.
Orby, if you're wondering what that secret is, it's because it was for the love that I had for all of you that kept my head glued together at the end of the day. So in case nobody knows who Adam Cohen is, Adam is actually an incredible lighting designer. Adam has worked with Hollywood Undead. He's worked with Sum 41. He's worked with In This Moment. He's now the current lighting designer for Breaking Benjamin. He actually works for a company down in Philadelphia, too, called Synergetic. And I don't think you'd ever meet a nicer individual on the face of the earth. He's just got a great mentality and awesome knowledge as far as getting behind a console. And he's just a happy individual. Unless you keep him on a bus for 3 days straight, coming in and out of Russia. Then I'm sure he gets a little bit upset.
What about him? How have I changed?
You have changed.
Doesn't look like it.
Well, it's been.
Let's drink this first, and then then I'll tell you how you changed.
Thanks for doing this. And
Oh,
Jaeger. Ooh.
that has not changed.
that's that.
Oh, that's terrible.
So
How was this good back in the day?
when it hits your lips.
Oh, it's amazing how you get older and your tastes change. Oh my God, this is terrible. I used to love Jaeger.
Oh, I know you did. I think most people, I don't think you've changed really much at all. I think you've just gotten more wisdom.
Grown up.
The first time I met you, Johnny, I was 18, I think, when you were with the Weekender. And I was trying to think, like, back now that I know you.
What?
Johnny Weekender.
Yeah, now that I know you so much better now.
What do you
I'm
think?
pretty sure you looked exactly the same.
What do you
Just
think
a
is
little
my
fatter.
fondest memory of you?
Oh, Jesus.
It's not your birthday.
No. All right, you can do that to me, and then I'm going to do it to you. And I was trying to dig up the picture of you to show tonight, but
Please don't.
I didn't.
Please don't.
Fondest memory of me. I have no idea. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of history.
There's this acoustic show I played the one time in a bar called Gilligan's. You remember that? It was right in Edwardsville.
My brother's grad party. Yeah. Yeah.
That is my fondest memory of you.
That was like, I forgot about that until you brought it up. How was that? A gig that you got paid for just to perform at a grad party. How is that your fondest memory of me?
Because it showed a real sense of who you are at the end of the day. When you're with mom, your brother, not outside in the bars. You know, like, trust me, you've seen me at my finest in the bars, and I've seen you at your finest as well.
Yeah.
But it was just an aspect of getting to know the real side of you. You know, and I think that's like, you know, a lot of people when they first meet each other in the scene, you know, like Joe Caviston, Kenny, and all of them, I've met them in the bars and drinking, you know, and everybody that I went way back with in Corkscrews when I used to play there. Corkscrews was a bar where absolute pandemonium and chaos ensued.
I'm pretty sure I had a date rape drink given to me there.
I'm pretty sure all of
By
us did.
accident.
Yeah.
By accident.
It's always refreshing to see people.
It's always refreshing to pee.
It really is.
Absolutely it
I actually
is.
have to
Yes,
pee.
it is.
I actually have to pee, but it's always refreshing to see people in their environment with their family and who they are, and then you understand them and have a sense of them. That's like one of the most refreshing things, I think, especially to know people in this certain scene that's not almost separate, but it is. In a way.
Well, that's why I feel like I got to know John as much as I did, because I saw him outside of that scene and in that scene. You know, I've seen John in a business scene, his family scene, the bar scene, you know, all of those aspects. And I think that's when it comes down to, like, you really know a person at the end of the day, is when you truly know who they are. And, you know, even, you know, I had the privilege of being a part of your wedding and everything too. And I've told you countless times, if you ever needed anything or whatever, I'd always do whatever you needed for you and Amanda. And, you know, and one thing I'll say is that, you know, it's again where those paths of where they cross and they lead to and everything. You know, John and I could have just known each other from one aspect, but we've known each other from many. And that's again where our true friendship and camaraderie really comes across at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You're vibrating.
It's not me.
No, it's sports updates.
Nice.
Yeah. The Red Sox are playing. Fuck you, Freddie. It's funny you say that, though, because, like, the same goes for me. Obviously, we know each other from the same... even tonight, like, I don't think we've ever sat down and had a conversation at this length.
Or level.
Or level, ever. And you're obviously a smart dude. You're educated. You're fucking know your history. You know, and it's cool to see that side of you. And you're not a this dumb musician.
Dipshit.
Yeah, you're not. It's cool. Well, doing this has been really cool for me. And going back to opportunities, like, this could lead to nothing for me. But it doesn't, because at the end of the day, it leads to this. And, like, I knew who Brittany was before we started doing this, but now she's a friend of mine. And that's cool. And Gerard and all that kind of stuff. Like,
What's up, Gerard? It's nice to see you back there.
you know, so I mean, I took this opportunity and I was kind of scared. And even the radio show on Saturday nights, like, that's not a plug for me. It's just when the guy asked me to do that, I was like, "Are you fucking serious? I can't talk to begin with." Like,
It's hard to put yourself out
I mashed
there.
my words together. Like, are you seriously serious? You know?
But maybe doing this might have
Yeah,
helped
it's
you
cool.
have some. Maybe you're more comfortable now. You might not have said yes to that radio show
Yeah.
at that. You know.
But again, going back to opportunity, I think you just want to do this. Yeah, let's do it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Worst I can do is screw it up.
I think you're doing all right.
Yeah.
You haven't screwed it up yet.
I always screw it up.
No. Just remember, you're only leading yourself into success.
I'm going.
What's that thinking?
Positive reinforcement.
All right,
Any
dudes.
questions you have for this guy?
I'm good.
Well, we do have to give
I
away.
have a million, but I will be here all night.
We got some new joinees. Sean Coe, Mark Yanish, Matt Steiger says, "What's up,
Oh,
Guido?
half of Grace's downfall.
What's up, Guido?" But we have tickets to give away to.
Oh, that's right.
I'll
I'll tell you in 2 seconds.
Yeah, you find that.
We
for
have a
me,
winner.
And I will tell you the name. Yeah, but what's he the winner of?
He won tickets to...
I
So
know.
Gerard's
I know
thing.
it's Gerard's thing, but like
Gerard, give us the proper name. Powerbomb?
X-Pac.
Live pro wrestling and Old Forge with X-Pac.
Live pro wrestling and Old Forge with featuring X-Pac.
Who's X-Pac?
And the winner is...
Do the drum roll.
Patrick Martinelli.
I hope that's the right one.
It is.
If
Way
it's
to,
wrong,
not, way to not screw it up.
if it's wrong, it's
You've
not my
succeeded.
We're
fault.
like blacked out at this point.
Shots. 4 shots.
Oh gosh. Patrick Martinelli, you won tickets.
Rich will contact you for your stuff, your ticks. So
Your ticks.
Dicks.
your dick's ticks.
Oh god.
We better wrap it up before it gets weird.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
I'm going to finish it before I go. Don't worry.
We gotta finish that bottle too. It's 2006. We're in a bar. We're pissing on walls.
We're gonna drink this whole thing.
You want to tell everybody about that story?
No,
I didn't think so.
listen. I'll show pictures of you with an umbrella.
It's been a nice night, everybody.
That's all I gotta say. Guido, umbrella.
Second time I snorted.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
But seriously, thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys are getting married or have an event, contact this guy and his team at MCR Productions in his 1,000 rooms. It's the room at 900.
Just look at the pictures. They speak 1,000
Is it one of
words.
Scranton, right?
Yep, Mayfield.
Mayfield. That's called the
The atrium.
atrium.
The atrium at the
You don't
Needs Center.
stop, do you? Here's real quick
Can't stop,
before we
won't
leave.
stop.
When do you sleep?
I get about 5-6 hours a night.
Which is actually the perfect amount.
Which is I just don't know when, like how and when.
About 11.
Child, one on the way,
Okay, so hold on.
girl.
Before we wrap it up
1,000
quick,
things to do.
I'll give it like a minute dissertation. I'm very fortunate enough to be surrounded by a good family. Janelle does an outstanding job of taking care of our child when I'm not around, too. She's a wonderful mom. You know, she puts in more hours than I do, just because I'm always constantly working and doing things. And, you know, she even has a job, too, on top of it. You know, God bless her. She's top notch. But I'm fortunate enough that she believes in everything that I do. And I really appreciate the fact that she does that every day. And the one thing is that, like, while I'm here, I'm going to keep creating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I only have so much time at the end of the day, be it jobs, be it ideas, be it design, be it children. I only have so much
It's
time
just
to
how you're
give, and I don't
wired.
want to waste it. You know,
Yeah.
that's just it. At the end of the day, I want to do something great, whether it's on a small scale or whether it's on a big scale, and I want to be a part of the fact of people that also believe in that kind of thing, or be surrounded by the people that are doing great things at the end of the day too, or even by the people that are down on their luck and need that extra push to get them to where they need to be. You know, that's the kind of people I like to surround myself with.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Well, thank you again for
Thank you.
sitting down with us. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Cole Creative, Beer Boys, The
Gerard.
Keys, FM Kirby Center, Loyalty Barbershop. Hope you guys have a good night.
Everyone that supports everything we do, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.